What if I told you one small fruit just changed global trade forever? While the world was watching oil and gas, India quietly built a pineapple empire, and now Europe's markets are shaking. Farmers became strategists, shipping routes were rewritten, and a sweet golden fruit turned into a weapon of economic power. This isn't just about fruit. This is about how India outsmarted the world.
The first sign that something unusual was happening in the global fruit trade didn't come from stock markets or political summits. It came from shipping manifests. Quietly, steadily, containers labeled "Product of India" premium pineapple began appearing in ports that had not seen Indian pineapple in decades. Rotterdam, Marseille, Hamburg, Dubai, Lagos, even Santiago. At first, no one paid attention. Pineapple was considered a minor crop in global geopolitics. It was something for supermarket shelves, cocktails, and canned fruit aisles, not a strategic asset. But behind the sweetness, behind the golden flesh and spiky crowns, a silent strategy was unfolding. India had entered the fruit battlefield. The climate advantage that changed everything. Eastern India's skies had always been generous with rain. States like Tripura, Assam, Mizoram, and parts of West Bengal sat under a natural rhythm of monsoon clouds and tropical sun that most European farmers could only simulate inside expensive greenhouses. For generations, pineapple had grown wild and semi-wild across these regions. Farmers planted it between tea bushes, along forest edges, and across sloping red soil that drained water perfectly. The fruit grew without the need for artificial heating systems, without massive irrigation projects, without costly soil replacements. Nature had already done the engineering. In Europe, pineapple production was a technological struggle. Heated glasshouses in Spain, controlled humidity chambers in parts of southern France, and complex artificial lighting systems consumed enormous amounts of electricity. Every European pineapple was a victory against nature. Every Indian pineapple was a partnership with it. Government scientists, climate analysts, and economic strategists in New Delhi saw the imbalance clearly. While Europe paid rising energy costs to grow a tropical fruit, India could scale naturally with lower environmental and financial pressure. That difference became the foundation of a new national agricultural doctrine. The fruit was no longer just food. It was leverage, government strategy, from subsidies to silent infrastructure. The Indian government didn't announce a pineapple revolution to the world. It worked quietly. A few policy changes here, a few budget reallocations there. Agricultural journals mentioned horticultural optimization, while overseas media remained distracted by bigger crops like wheat and rice. Cold storage units began rising near railway lines. New rural roads connected pineapple belts to inland freight hubs. Small but powerful technological shifts appeared in farmer training centers. Moisture-sensing soil devices, satellite weather mapping, mobile-based crop health alerts. Banks offered low-interest microloans, not loudly, not as headlines, but gently, efficiently. Farmers who once grew pineapple as a side crop began scaling production. They expanded their fields, experimented with hybrid varieties, and invested in better post-harvest handling. Logistics became the real battleground. Instead of sending pineapples slowly through congested roads, specialized fruit corridors emerged, railway plus refrigerated container plus priority port clearance. What once took 12 days now took 4. What once spoiled now arrived fresh and golden. Behind the scenes, trade negotiators quietly adjusted phytosanitary standards. Indian pineapples suddenly met, and in some cases exceeded, European and Middle Eastern quality requirements. By the time global trade analysts took notice, the strategy was already halfway complete. The farmers who became architects of a global shift in Tripura, a fictional farmer named Raghav Das, had spent years growing pineapples the old way. Manual harvesting, selling to middlemen, low profits. But when a new cooperative model arrived in his district, everything changed. The cooperative introduced small drone scanners that flew over fields, identifying ripeness clusters by analyzing leaf color and plant density. Instead of guessing harvest times, farmers harvested with scientific precision. This reduced waste and improved size consistency. Raghav's farm became a model. He installed moisture control trenches that reduced root rot by half. He participated in farmer workshops where technicians explained how to naturally boost sugar content using soil microbes rather than chemical additives. Within 5 years, his pineapples carried a new reputation in foreign markets: sweeter, more uniform, and longer lasting. Meanwhile, in Assam, a women-led fictional cooperative called Golden Crown Collective reinvented post-harvest logistics. Instead of piling fruit into trucks and hoping for the best, they adopted foam-lined crates with shock absorption. They created regional sorting hubs where pineapples were graded by AI-assisted cameras. Export agents started preferring their shipments because damage rates dropped below 3%. Previously, global averages were around 15%. These weren't just farmers anymore. They were strategists on the front lines of a quiet economic war. The European supply chain begins to crumble. Europe had dominated premium pineapple markets for decades, not in production volume, but in branding, controlled quality, and established supermarket chains. Their strength was not farming, but logistics and contracts. But contracts are only strong as long as prices stay competitive. Energy crises in Europe increased greenhouse costs. Transport strikes slowed harvest deliveries. Rising labor costs hit packaging facilities. Meanwhile, Indian pineapples arrived cheaper, fresher, and with stable long-term supply promises. European traders tried to maintain dominance by discounting their fruit. It didn't work. Retailers started running side-by-side comparisons at trade expos. European-grown pineapple, higher cost, slightly smaller, stronger acidity. Indian-grown pineapple, lower cost, juicier texture, longer shelf life. The math was brutal. Supermarkets in the Middle East switched first, then Eastern Europe, then parts of Africa. European lobby groups sent warnings to policymakers, but policymakers were busy dealing with energy and security issues. Pineapple was not considered a national security threat. They were wrong. The birth of pineapple diplomacy. India realized the true power of what it had built when smaller nations started requesting not just fruit, but systems. Countries in Southeast Asia asked for soil technology advice. African nations requested cold chain blueprints. South American exporters asked about cooperative management systems. India didn't sell them fruit. India sold them partnership. Trade agreements suddenly included agricultural technology exchanges. Pineapple became a symbol of South-South cooperation. It wasn't about domination. It was about designing a new supply chain philosophy that didn't depend on expensive infrastructure or Western energy dependency. Diplomats began calling it fruit power, a new kind of soft power, sweet, subtle, effective. Cost-effectiveness, numbers that terrified traditional markets behind closed doors. Analysts compared real costs. European model: high energy for greenhouses, expensive labor, artificial lighting. High transport costs within dense road systems. Indian model: natural sunlight and rainfall, community labor networks, open field cultivation, rail-based long-distance transport even when adding ocean freight. Indian pineapples cost up to 40% less at wholesale level. Scalability was even more frightening for competitors. Europe could not simply expand tropical production without massive new energy infrastructure. India could expand by simply converting more climatically suitable land, sustainably, gradually, and cheaply. The future wasn't just cheaper. It was unstoppable. A world slowly realizing what had happened. Trade magazines started publishing quiet warnings. Global pineapple dynamics are shifting, new supply chains emerging from Asia. Is Europe losing control of tropical produce? But by the time headlines grew loud, contracts had already been signed for years in advance. Shipping routes were optimized. Cold chains were locked in. India wasn't breaking markets loudly. It was building parallel systems until the old ones became irrelevant. The pineapple as a symbol of a new world order technology was the silent hero. Indian startups developed ripeness detection apps where a simple phone camera could analyze sugar density. Blockchain-based tracking ensured buyers knew exactly where their fruit came from. Smart packaging extended freshness by controlling oxygen levels inside boxes. And farmers? They adapted faster than anyone expected. Because innovation wasn't imposed. It was shared. Something strange happened in global forums. When countries discussed food security, they began referencing the Indian model. When sustainability panels met, they cited tropical efficiency. When development banks looked at rural empowerment, they pointed to pineapple cooperatives, all from a fruit once considered insignificant. The sweet shockwave across global trade. American and European trading houses tried to adapt. Some partnered with Indian exporters. Some exited the pineapple market entirely. A few tried to relabel imports, but traceability systems exposed them within months. India didn't celebrate loudly. It didn't need to. The containers kept moving. The ports stayed busy. The farmers kept improving. The cooperatives multiplied. And the world adjusted to a new reality. A world where power wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was sweet. Final reflection: India's pineapple rise wasn't an accident. It was a layered strategy built on nature, policy, and people. It was a masterclass in how modern power can grow from the soil rather than be forged in conflict. As global trade continues to evolve, one lesson quietly echoes through shipping yards and supermarket aisles. The biggest shifts don't always come from war rooms or boardrooms. Sometimes, they grow on fields under the open sky.